This is a tutorial on lesson 3 for loop demo. This corresponds to lesson 3 for loops, 3a for loops in your booklet. So by now I assume that you have git cloned the folder for loop demo. And if you need to know how to do that, there's a separate video on how to clone a repository from online down to your working folder on your computer. Okay, so in this folder, you have two files. You have a basic HTML file, you have a script file. Okay, and we don't need to change anything in there today. All we're changing is a sample loop in here. Okay, so a loop goes is several parts. So first of all, you have the initializer. So initialize a variable and to be a certain number, and as long as the conditional is true. Okay, so as long as the value of I is less than 26, it's going to increase or iterate, or you're going to increase this number by 1 each time. So the idea of a loop is it's doing something repetitively. So it's repeating this line here several times. So it started from 0, and then you'll go out to 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, and then this task here, document.getln by ID message, keeps printing the number into that message. Okay, so then if you run this, the number of times it's looping through, you'll print between 0 and 25. 0 because you start with 0 here. 25 because 25 less than 26. Okay, so when I gets to 26, it's going to jump out the loop and you'll do the next command. Okay, so to go through that again, I start from 0 because that's what the initializer tell you to do. And as long as I is less than 26, it's going to increase by 1 each time you go through the loop. So that's why what's inside here is displaying from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 25. Okay, so that's the idea of a loop. Now, if you manipulate the loop carefully, you can do a lot of things, or each time you can do something slightly different, which we'll go through a little bit later in the course. Now, the key thing, one other example that you can do to initialize that for loop is if you say I initialize this at 0, as long as I is less than 10, and you're going to go up by an increment of 2 each time because I equals I plus 2. So whereas what you have here is I plus plus, meaning that it's going to go up by 1 at a time. Okay, that's a shorthand of going up 1 at a time. All right, so let's play around with this loop here, which is exactly the same as what I went through on the example. If I run this in the browser, this displays exactly how I had on the booklet displays. So if I go back to script here, and I change that to say 260, for example, then go back to the browser. If I press refresh, it's going to display all the number after 259. Okay, and that's something. So you don't need to do a lot of changes before the loop does a lot more for you. Okay, now going back to 26, what if I change this to condition of less or equal to 26? That means I initialize at 0. It's as long as I is less or equal to 26, it's going to keep repeating this line 7 command. So up to I equals 26, just keep running that, which means instead of going out to 25, now it's going to go out to 26. Okay, so go back to just less than 25, less than 26, it's going to have 25. If it's less or equal to 26, you got go out to 26. Okay. I mentioned that this for loop is going to keep repeating this command inside here multiple times. Now, what happens if I grab this, okay, and I now put that outside the loop? So the loop is still going to increase I each time, each loop, each repeat, but I is not going to increase. Sorry, I is going to increase, but it's not going to do anything within the loop. So by doing that, I'm only doing something once, which is the final I number, and this number now will be 27, because this increase every time. By the time I get to 27, 27 is not less or equal to 26, so it's going to jump out of the loop. Then you perform the next task. So if I run this now, it only prints 27 because the loop itself is not displaying any further information. Okay, so I'll pull that back. Now, another couple of little things that to keep in mind of is brackets. So whenever the for loop begins with the curly bracket here, and it has to conclude at the bracket here. So according to these brackets here, if I miss a bracket here, it's not going to know how the loop finishes. So in the console, it's going to tell me that there's a bug. So you need to make sure of that. Okay. Right. So that's lesson 3. I'll go through a few examples in the booklet, which I will need you to go through as well, and which means this will consolidate your understanding. Okay, so in the next page here, I have a few questions. Write down the outputs of the first one. So the first one reads like this. Okay, so j is initialized as 0. As long as j is less or equals to 5, I is going to increase 1 at a time. Now, this is possibly a typo. This one here, all right, really should be j instead. Likewise, that one. Okay, so so this one here, it's gonna start with 0. It's gonna go up to 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so and 5 as well, because j is less or equals to 5 means 5 is included. So in this loop here, j will iterate through 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the second one initialized at 5, which means the initial value of j is 5. And then you have j is less than or equals to 8. So that's going to start with 5, 6, 7, and including 8. Okay. Now the third one here, you have j starting at 4. As long as j is less or equals to 2, j go up by 1. Do you see something funny here? If j start with 4, it's not less or equals to 2. So that's not true. Okay, that's false. Because that's false, you're never going to run anything inside the loop, because it's only going to run a loop as long as, say, in the previous example, j is less or equals to 8. Okay, in this case, j is not less than equals to 2 and never will be. So the whole for loop here display nothing. Okay, now final one here. Okay, k equals 0 initialized. As long as k is greater than -5, k is minus means it's going to go down by 1. So you start from 0. The next loop is going to reduce by 1, so -1, -2, -3, -4. Okay, and the next one, k is no longer bigger than -5, because -5 equals -5. So that stops. So that loop there will stop at -4. Okay, now some of the harder loops I'll give you a table like this, which help your understanding and help you plan things out. Okay, and this one has already been done. So first of all, j equals 0 initialized. Now inside the for loop, you have g is equal to 0. As long as g is less than 5, g is going to go up by 1. Okay, so inside the loop, first of all, j is going to go up by 1 each loop, and then g is going to display g, and then the next loop you'll go up at 1. Okay, so this means initial j value is 0, 0, j and g are both 0. At the end of the first loop, okay, j is gone up by 1, and g hasn't gone up by 1, it's still 0. But the next loop, j is going to increase by 1 before g go up by 1. Okay, so and then next loop 3 and 2, 4 and 3, 5 and 4. Okay, because we want to see what value is at this point here after the console.log. The increase by 1 only happens when you go to the top of the loop again. Okay, so that's how that one is. I'll go through another example just to be completely clear. Okay, so this one here, you got, actually, let's go through this one here instead. Okay,